Indoor air quality is easy to overlook, but it's vital to your health and to the integrity of your home. This is especially true in climates where heating and cooling seasons mean that windows don't really open that much, so there's not a lot of outside air naturally coming into your home. As I'll explain later in this video with a true story, indoor air quality is often the single biggest health factor in people's lives. And I know this is true because over the last 20 years, I've helped many people solve indoor air quality problems in their home. And during this time, I've heard more than a few remarkable stories about how indoor air quality improvements have changed people's lives. The key to boosting indoor air quality when windows are closed is a ventilation appliance called a heat recovery ventilator, or HRV for short. Over the next few minutes, I'll show you exactly how HRVs work and why I like them so much. Then you can decide for yourself if an HRV makes sense in your home. HRVs are made by a number of different companies, but all models create two different moving streams of air. The air that is forced out of your house by a fan moves through tiny passages with thin walls in them. At the same time, an outdoor air stream, fresh air, is drawn into your house by a separate fan, passing through the other side of the passages. The two air streams meet each other and exchange either the heating or cooling energy you've invested in them without actually mixing together. Energy is exchanged between incoming and outgoing air streams through these thin walls without allowing the two air streams to mix. It saves the energy in your house without otherwise letting it waft outside through an open window. A Canadian firm called Van-E invented heat recovery ventilators back in the early 1980s, and they still make some of the best, most efficient, and most reliable HRVs on the market. So, why does all this matter? Well, since the early 1970s, homes have been built tighter and to perform more energy efficiently than ever before. And while saving heating and cooling energy is a good thing, it also means that without the incidental air leakage that used to happen with older homes, toxins and indoor air pollutants build up inside your home, and that's definitely a bad thing. Sure, you could just open windows to let fresh air into your house, but what's the point of having a tight home if you're going to waste energy that way? Who wants to let hard-earned cash flow out the windows of an otherwise tight home? Some homes, especially older homes, naturally leak enough air that there's no need for an HRV because air moves in and out of the house naturally. So the big question is, how do you know if your home could benefit from an HRV? Wintertime window condensation is one way. When more than a little moisture builds up on the inside of windows during cold weather, it's an indication of insufficient ventilation in your home. As moisture builds up in the air in your home from cooking, showering, and breathing, relative humidity rises to the point where condensation will develop on the cold inside surface of windows during winter. Now, this is more than just an annoying source of mold and mildew. It's also an indicator, because in the same way that relative humidity is rising, moisture is rising in your home, indoor air pollutants and toxins from off-gassing materials are also rising too. So moisture is an indicator of a larger situation. There's no shortage of gimmicks in the air purification business. And that's why I did not install an HRV when I built my own home in 1989. But lots of stale air and dripping window condensation over the first few winters proved that I had to change my mind about HRVs. Once I realized my mistake, I bought and installed a Van-E HRV unit in my home. And within a few hours of switching it on, indoor air quality was noticeably better, and window condensation disappeared after just a few hours. And that's quite a change because we had a chronic window condensation problem before that. The difference was like night and day. And even now, my kids still talk about switching on the Van-E when we need extra ventilation in the house. Regardless of the kind of Van-E you consider for your home, there are three things you need to keep in mind. First of all, HRVs are a proven, mature, and legitimate technology. Second, They also offer a tremendous boost to indoor air quality, and that's something that anybody can notice when they're inside your house. Third and finally, I've never seen a case of wet winter windows that was not completely cured by a properly functioning HRV. All this said, having an HRV installed does cost between $2,000 and $2,500, so it's a pretty hefty financial investment. That said, it can also make a huge difference to the health of the people living in your home. And that's what this true story is all about. Back just before Christmas in 2013, I visited a friend of mine and I noticed that there was mold growing on different parts of the inside of her home. "Isn't that terrible?" she admitted as she saw me looking up at the ceiling covered in mold. "There's mold all over this house. I wish the landlord would do something." As it turns out, the landlord had done something. When the house was originally built in the 1980s, an HRV was included. But without instructions on how to use it, or even the knowledge that the HRV was in her house, my friend simply did not switch it on in the 12 years she'd lived there. She simply didn't know how. Besides an unusually high incidence of coughs in the family, my friend's 13-year-old son had always suffered from asthma ever since he was a baby. "Does his asthma get worse in the winter?" I asked. "Yes, it does," she said. "And what about window condensation? Do your windows develop water on the inside?" "Yes, all the time," she explained. "And when it gets cold outside, we can't even see outside of the windows." Everything I heard pointed to a classic case of poor indoor air quality. Very poor. That's why I suggested the installation of an HRV. But a quick look at my friend's home showed that she already had one. All she had to do was to hit the on button, dial the humidity meter down to about 30%, and within a few hours, indoor air quality was noticeably better, much better, and window condensation cleared up for the first time in 12 years. Mold stopped growing in her house, the asthma attacks stopped, and this all because an HRV was put into action. Does every home need mechanical ventilation this badly? No, but a surprising number of houses do need it, and that's why I'm going to leave you with a few things before I finish up. First, even though indoor air quality might not be a very visible issue in your home, it certainly can be quite significant just the same. And second, don't make the mistake I did 25 years ago, thinking that a modern, efficient home can function properly without an HRV. After decades of helping people with indoor air quality issues, I'm convinced that an HRV is essential for a healthful and comfortable home.